Okay, good morning, good morning. Welcome everybody to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm Samantha Studebaker-Carl, your host. I'm broadcasting to you live from beautiful Southwest Georgia. And I'm here with my good friend Catherine, and I think that we probably have a couple other people that are going to jump on here shortly. Dan's been having some issues with his computer. He upgraded to Windows 10. Anybody else do that? I did, and so far it's been doing okay, but Dan said he was having some issues. I don't know what else everybody else's experience is, but let us know. Here's a question for you. Have you upgraded to Windows 10? I know that has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about here today, but actually, if you're brand new here, first things first, I'm going to let Catherine introduce herself, and hopefully Dan will jump on, and then I'll just say hey to you guys who are hanging out with us. And we'll just go from there. We'll just kind of go however we feel like talking today. It's going to be casual since we don't have that many folks with us this morning. Jump out, Catherine.
We're always casual. That's what I love about us, actually, because we're real. My name's Catherine Clement. I'm here in gorgeous Boulder, Colorado this morning, and our weather is just amazing today. It's brisk. It's like a little bit of fall here already, so I don't know what kind of weather you guys are having, but like I'm in a sweater this morning. So I would love to hear if you have updated to Windows 10, because I got the little pop-up thing and I signed up for the queue. I agreed, but I haven't like downloaded it onto my computer yet. And I would really love to hear in the comments if you have and if you've had any problems or not. That would be awesome. Because it sounds like Dan had a lot of problems. So I wonder if there could be some kind of virus or something on the pop-up. People are always figuring out how to hack that stuff. So love to hear. Thank you everyone for coming. I see so many wonderful people out there this morning. Let me jump over there. I'm working sort of in a weird way today, so I'm a little bit slower than normal. But let me go over here and just welcome all these wonderful people. We got Sandy and Karen and Dan and another Karen and BG, and Dan is here. He's trying to get on, and Jana, and let's see, and oh my goodness, Julia. And hopefully I haven't forgotten everybody. Christina's watching and Donna's watching. So thank you everyone for coming this morning. I feel like that lady in the what was that, the magic mirror thing? Do you remember that? You guys are that old?
I don't know what you're talking about, Catherine. The magic mirror. What?
Romper Room. Do you remember Romper Room?
I don't.
Yeah, I'm totally telling my age here. I'm gonna shut up now.
Oh, come on. Okay, guys. Yeah, welcome everybody. It's great to have you guys on this morning. And Christopher, I saw you just jumped on. Welcome. Okay, so what we're doing here, in case you're brand new, is every Saturday morning we get together. This is the Saturday Morning Mastermind. We talk about different personal development books, and we share our insights, and you share your insights, and we all learn and grow together. So right now we're studying the book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter. We're on chapter 13, and we're going to kind of discuss some of the mistakes that people make when they start with personal development or self-help. This chapter was, it was interesting because we were kind of talking beforehand about whether we should skip the chapter because it's so short. And it was, I read through it and I'm like, well, everybody knows that if it's not simple, they're not going to do it, right? And Catherine was like, well, we need to, we really should be talking about this. And so I thought, it's a good possibility there are folks out there who don't realize why their self-help isn't working. And so I think that it's important to talk about this. And I'm glad that I have Catherine and all the other folks that are part of our leadership council to help me make decisions when it comes to these kinds of things, because sometimes I have a thought that, maybe we don't need to cover this. And they're like, yes, we do, or vice versa, whatever it happens to be. And it's a great thing that we can all come together and help each other grow. So for those of you who are hanging out with us, I don't know if I mentioned this already. If you're watching, wherever you are on the internet, if you're watching this live and you'd like to be a part of the conversation, be sure and jump over to SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. That URL will take you to the main live event page, where you'll find everybody else's commenting, and then I'll see your comments, or one of us on the panel will see your comments, and you'll be able to add to the conversation. So let's see, where should we start with this today, Catherine? I was kind of thinking, let me look at my notes here. Maybe we could kind of start with what personal development programs you have participated in, or I have, or anybody else that is watching. What have you gotten involved with, and then you let it go because it was just too simple, or too difficult, or too complicated, or one of those words. What do you guys think? Anybody want to throw some things out there that they've gotten involved with before and ended up putting it aside for one reason or another?
Well, I'm sure I'm no different than most people. I've got a ton of books on the shelf. I've been to numerous programs in person, and I've ordered numerous. I have program on program on program that I have purchased and I haven't even read yet. Or, I started reading it, and like you said, it's too complicated. I'm not going to throw out, specific names or anything, because different things work for different people. But most of these, the thing about self-help and coaching, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with coaching, don't get me wrong. But the thing about that is that a lot of coaches only teach what worked for them. That's sort of the story. It's everybody has a rags to riches story. All the coaches have a rags to riches, where they lost everything, and then they had to figure out how to get it back, and this is what worked for them, and that becomes their program or their book. But different things work for different people, and some of these programs are so complicated. And I want to clarify that complicated for some people's lives could mean taking more than 5 minutes a day, because some people, a lot of people's lives, when I was an RN and raising my family and, working 2 jobs and all that stuff, there's no time to do a lot of these programs. Some of them require hours and days, or, you have to learn how to make a video, and to some of us, making a video may be nothing now, although at one point I would say for all of us, it was a very frightening experience. It certainly was for me. I can't believe I'm on a hangout every Saturday morning, as scared as I was of the camera in the beginning. I kept my very first video because it's so hilarious. I go back and watch it and pat myself on the back for, coming out of my shell a little bit. But, so even if the program is simple, if it's time consuming, then people still can't do it. Or I was in a program that had a lot of self-talk, and there's nothing wrong with self-talk, and self-talk's great. But for me, the way that this was taught, it was very repetitive, and a lot of people absolutely are, and so it can change your life if you do it that many times a day. Like if you just do it repeatedly over and over, like anytime your mind is wandering, you just jump into your self-talk. It's a great way to bring yourself back into the flow and get refocused on what you're working on. But at the same time, only filling my mind with that, I started missing other things like music and things that I was then not doing, because I was always focused on that. So, there's balance in everything. So these programs, if they're too complicated, if they're too time consuming, if they require equipment or things that you don't have, then that's another good excuse, is another financial barrier. So there's all these things. The biggest thing that gets in our way is that we just think, we get really fired up at the seminar. Oh, this is going to change my life. It's magical. And then you're driving home or whatever, and life hits you, and all of a sudden you're like, this can't work. I mean, you think inside, this really get, it worked for them, but it just can't work for me. And so our mindset is usually what kills it. But most of them are just so complicated. They want you to do this thing several times a day, and this thing, and you got to make this, you got to do this, you got to roll over backwards and flip upside down, and watch your breathing and all that stuff. And most people just aren't up for it, I think. I don't know, Samantha, what's been your experience? And please, everybody, comment for us. With only two of us, we're going to need some help here today.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that you're right when you said, we're on our way home, or we're, after we listen to it or whatever, and all of a sudden we're going, oh, that works for them, but it's not going to work for me. That huge self-doubt thing. And, Dan commented on the event page about that. He said the time was the biggest deterrent to doing self-improvement. Then self-doubt kicked in as well. And excuse me, my voice is not sounding great. Okay, let me try again. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing, and for me, it's been really similar. I listen to these programs, or I read these books, or I get involved with a strategy or whatever it is. And, you start it, and then just because of all the different things that happen in our lives, we've got so many things going on that all of a sudden you're trying to figure out, okay, how can I do this every day? It seems silly. I mean, in here he was talking about how he had gotten involved with this one personal development program. It was only supposed to take 20 minutes a night. Every night he's supposed to write down his goals and visualize what he wanted in his future and that sort of thing. And he was talking about how he had family and he had a full-time job and he was going to school and had all these things going on, and just getting that little 20 minutes a day was really hard. And I've experienced the same thing in my life, is just trying to add in something as simple as going on a walk every day. I was listening to a program a while back where it was talking about, go on a walk, and while you're walking, you say these like affirmations or incantations, and you get your energy up, and you get yourself all in a higher vibrational level, and you say positive statements to yourself about yourself or what you want to achieve in life and that sort of thing. And just doing a walk every day has not been something that's really easy for me. Of course, down here, I know Catherine's talking about having a sweater on. I'm sitting here dying. It's like 110% humidity and like almost 90 degrees, and I can walk for a minute, but I'm not going to go walk for a mile or whatever because it's too hot. We get those kinds of excuses, right? I had, a number of years, well, not a number of years ago, but at one point in time, I got really good about going for a walk every single day. I was going for my walk. I was listening to my audio every time, and what I would do is on my way out, I would listen to an audio, and on the way back, then I would, kind of just let it sink in my brain. I would just work on the things that it talked about, or I would say the affirmations or whatever it was, and I would go. And I did that good for probably 6 months, and then one day it rained, right? And I'm not going to go out and walk in the rain. And I ruined it, just by not going that one day, and then all of a sudden I'm not going anymore. And, it was something so silly that, I thought that I'd gotten to the point where I was in a habit, and I wasn't there yet. So, welcome, Christina. I'm glad to see that you jumped on. We're just kind of sharing our experiences with, what programs we've gotten involved with, and or maybe not the specifics, but just different ones and why they haven't worked for one reason or another. So if you want to jump out and come on out.
Hey, sorry that I'm late. What programs that I've been involved with? I'm sorry.
Yeah, because you know, we've just been kind of talking about the different self-help programs maybe we've tried and they haven't worked for whatever reason. You know, of course, we're talking about this chapter with you know, you got to keep it simple, otherwise it's not going to work. So we've just kind of been sharing our own life experiences and whatnot as far as that goes.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I haven't done a whole lot of self-help programs, but actually the ones that I've done have really kind of worked for me. Um, the one that I'm uh, doing right now is Pay Me What I'm Worth, and it's not like a self-help program as much as it is just learning how to value myself and really being balanced in giving and receiving, you know. And that has been a phenomenal course for me. I also am part of a mastermind, a monthly mastermind called the Deep Abyss, which is another great thing that kind of helps me get, you know, be more aware and really grow a little bit. You know, I tend to like programs that don't just give you the awareness of stuff, but kind of gives you some tools to move past stuff and actually grow.
Okay, I'm sorry. Was I Christina said I was kind of breaking up when I was talking the last time, or Catherine said that. Sorry about that. I just put a DSL or a direct line on my computer. I was hoping that was going to help, but I guess it's not so much. But okay, so Catherine, I mean, since I'm kind of breaking up a little bit, you want to jump over there and just read some of the things on the page? Because you were sounding nice and clear.
Okay, let me jump over there. Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought maybe it was just me, but Christina says you're. I mean, we can still hear everything you say, but I don't know. There's some kind of little staticky something. Hi, Jason. So glad you joined us, and Christina. So glad you're back. Oh my goodness, glad to have well, not everybody, but quite a lot of yes. Let me jump over here and look at the. All right. So Karen Lohoff says I found similar difficulties, Dan, but then I better go down a little bit. That's not going to make sense. Hold on. Ah, Dan remembers Romper Room and Magic Mirror. See, I'm not the only one. I remember Quisp cereal too, but a lot of people say that never existed and that's all in my mind, but I have a watch to prove it. It did exist. It still does. Actually, you can order it off the internet. All right, so it looks like and I better go down a little bit. That's not going to make sense. Hold on. Uh-oh, that's very delayed. Maybe I'm not a good one to read it either. Okay, Dan Sissick says he has not upgraded to Windows 10. We were asking about that. Christopher Kemp says, hi, all tons of challenges with Windows 10. It's like you have to recover everything you have stored. Oh my goodness. See, that would be a nightmare for me. I'm sure our Dan is going to pipe in on Windows 10 with his experience. And Dan Sissick says, yeah, some of the self-help stuff just seems so not totally real to him. JD says, I don't want to become someone's acolyte in order to change my life. Very, very true. You know, we all need to be our own leader. That's the thing. And that's why a lot of the self-help stuff doesn't work, because it's not like it's going to just jump off the shelf and come do itself to you. You know, it's not a magic pill or a magic spell. It's, you know, you still have to take charge. You still have to listen to it. You still have to say the things, write the things, do the things, even if it rains, right? Dan Smith says, Napoleon Hill says, spend 30 minutes a day visualizing your life. I can't do it at night because I'm usually too tired to do it and fall asleep. That happens too. I think that's why some of us figured out how to record stuff and let it play while we sleep. Because that way, they say it gets in there like really good when you're knocked out and don't have your conscious mind in there blocking it anyway. So then Karen says, I found similar difficulties, Dan, but then also my mornings keep getting so jammed I feel I never get to my work. And then exactly, life happens, you know, that everybody has all these time constraints on them, and you just wind up, you know, putting other things ahead of it. Samantha, you're clear depending on where you move, and other times you're choppy. All right, let me get over here so I can mute, and then let's hear something from Jason. So glad you made it on. Oh, there's Dan too. Look, I was on a different screen. I didn't even know he was on. All right, I'm gonna hush.
Can't hear you, Jason. I think you're muted. Oh, sorry, I'm the only one.
And then, sorry, my microphone is so tiny on my phone. My big fingers, I can barely touch things. Yeah, I'm streaming in on my phone, so I don't have too much time. It's going to eat up all my data, so it might cut out on me. But I just wanted to say, you know, this is an important chapter. I think where Dr. Shad Helmstetter is kind of letting us know that he knows it is difficult and it's tough to, you know, do this and also fulfill all of our commitments throughout the day. Where's my camera? Oh, it's up here. Okay, cool. So hi, everybody. You know, and I was just thinking, you know, we have these day-to-day commitments, and you know, we have these time constraints, energy constraints he's talking about. Then we also have, you know, things going wrong with the internet. So we, you know, if we have opportunity to do this stuff, we need to take the opportunity when it comes, because, you know, we may not get a chance later in the day, right? But I'm also one that likes the idea of making that tape and kind of falling asleep listening to it. And one thing I wanted to say about that, Catherine, was I think we, at least for me, when I was going to school in college, it really made a big difference as to who my instructor was. I guess I listened to some more. I guess some had a, I don't know if it was their voice or just the way they taught. But I think it's important to get the same ideas from different points of view, or maybe just different people saying them. So I've also incorporated into my tapes little snippets of other people saying things that I think are really profound, or maybe are something that I need to hear more often. You know, so that's something I add to that. So I just wanted to say hello while I have a chance, and it's great to be here. Great to see you. If I drop out, sorry, but I'll be back next Saturday, and I hope you all will too. Okay. Hope to hear from you, Dan. Hi, Christine. Hi, Samantha.
Well, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Am I coming across?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. Yeah, I've just had like 3 of the most challenging days of my life. So I had to do what we're teaching in this from this book this morning to myself. I kind of had to slap myself and pull myself up and change my self-talk, because I upgraded to Windows 10 and I lost all my sound, and it's been a real nightmare for the last 2 full days trying to get my internet back up. I just get my computer running again. I had no sound. I couldn't get any volume whatsoever. So, anyways, that being said, my first memory of a real self improvement program was a book by Og Mandino called The Greatest Salesman in the World. And in that book, there was a reading that you were supposed to do, and repetition is the mother of learning. Okay, And that's why, Napoleon Hill writes in Think and Grow Rich that repetition of affirmation of orders to your subconscious mind is the only known method of voluntary development of the emotion called faith. Okay, so that's the reason why we use repetition. And I keep going back in my mind to when I learned my times tables when I was a little kid. And I was like in the 4th grade, I think, or 3rd or 4th grade, whatever it was, that I did this repetition over and over and over again, going through the times table. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, and I did that up through the 12s. Okay, and that was what programmed my thinking, programmed my mind, and here I am, all these years later, and I still, I mean, with the invention of the calculator, or with the calculator, I mean, I've always got one real close, okay? But still, sometimes you don't have that calculator, so you got to go, okay, 5 times 4 is what, so you got to think it through. But my point is that repetition is what lodged that into my mind, lodged it into my thinking, okay? And I moved that to a subconscious level to where my times table, 1 through 12s, is there, and it's lodged within my subconscious mind. So that's the reason why we use repetition. Repetition of affirmation of orders to your subconscious mind is the only known method of voluntary development of the emotion of faith. And so that first program that I got involved with was that book, Og Mandino's The Greatest Salesman in the World, and there's a reading in there that you're supposed to do 3 times a day, and it's 20 minutes long. So that's an hour out of your 24-hour day, okay? And reading that, and I can't remember how long. I mean, I've got a couple of copies of it up here on my shelf, but I haven't looked at it for years, but I don't remember how long it is. Then Andy Andrews has a book. Oh heck, I was just there now. I can't think of what it's called. The Traveler's Gift, and it's got the same thing, okay? And it takes, like, I can't remember, 10 or 15 minutes a day to read through that twice a day. And so what you're doing is you're actually technically planting seeds. Now, words are seeds, and you plant them into your own heart. But the problem was back in the 70s, I had so many things going on, and finding 20 minutes at a time, 3 times a day, it's difficult. It takes time. It's like you get up a little bit late in the morning because you stayed up too late the night before reading your affirmations, okay? And so you got to scoot out the door, to get to work on time so you don't get fired. So, all these different things that cuts into your life that, yeah, I'd like to sit here and read my 20 minutes of affirmations, but I got to go to work, and so it just all cut in. It's hard, okay? It's just difficult, and it cuts into your life. And so Napoleon Hill, like I said on the discussion here, that he recommends that you spend 30 minutes a day just sitting in a chair visualizing, and I do spend a little bit of time every day visualizing, but sometimes that time is I wake up 3 o'clock in the morning and I can't go back to sleep, so I lay there and then I visualize, okay? So anyway, it's just fitting it in, but yeah, it's got to be simple, or else it's going to cut into your life to the point where it's just hard to do. So I'll hush up and let somebody else talk.
Well, but then you do bring up a good point about the repetition. I sort of agree with you. I like programs like in the Pay Me When I'm Worth program that I'm doing. There's an exercise with every chapter, and at the end of every chapter we kind of do a 1-page sort of worth passport is what he calls it, but it's just a 1-page summary of basically what we learned, right? So it's kind of like a journal all the way through, and then you can always go back, see where you were, see where you're continuing to grow, but it gives you some clarity of where your baseline was and where you are now and where you can go. So I like the fact that there are exercises at the end of each chapter that gives me actual steps that I can actually then go back and continue to repeat to get the rewiring in me. So I like what you said.
I wanted to jump out and read something that Brenda Jenkins wrote on our pre-mastermind discussion. She says, I've found that for me, things not only need to be simple, but I must be accountable to someone if I plan to complete whatever task I've assigned myself. It's too easy for me to let myself off the hook on those days I don't feel like doing whatever it is that I'm working toward. When I know that I have someone checking on me, for some reason I tend to do better. However, those things I love to do, I just do. It's those necessary things for change that I sometimes need, or that I sometimes need, may be a little harder. And, you know, I thought that was kind of a great point at this, where we're talking, because Christina, you were talking about the group that you're doing, the Pay Me What I'm Worth with, and you have those kind of accountability partners, if you will. And just like we do this mastermind every week, you know, if I didn't have you guys, I wouldn't be doing that. You know, I'd just be sitting here talking on the internet to I don't even know who, you know, but because you guys are into it, and because, you know, those of us on the panel are into it, then, you know, it gives us something that we can kind of come together on common ground and do something that we enjoy. Like she was saying, is that if she enjoys it, it's easy. If it's a little bit hard or it's challenging, you don't necessarily want to do it every single day, you know. And then I wanted to mention, I just got that book, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It's 30 different, or is it 30? Oh, shoot. I can't remember how many it is, but you're supposed to read each one for 30 days, multiple times a day, and that's supposed to, like what you're talking about, plant the seed in your brain. Maybe it was only 15 scrolls or whatever it was. It was going to take for a really, really long time. But it makes complete sense in the way that it was talking, because if you can kind of read those, if you read them multiple times for 30 days, it's going to stick in your brain as, like, you end up memorizing it, right? And that's kind of what we want, is we want those things that we're trying to change to become automatic, so that we don't have to think about them. They're just automatically actions that we take, or thoughts that we think, or any number of things like that. So somebody else.
Well, one of the things that you know, many of us are studying or have studied and kind of live by, the law of attraction, and bringing things to us and focusing our energy on things. I think for me, what I found is that even if it's over something, like I'm on Facebook and I see some horrific animal abuse video or something, and I get really emotionally charged over it, you know, I find that if I can take emotions and put them behind focus, or attach them with focus towards some of these intentions, then I think for me that has a tremendous more effect on my life than if I just randomly and semi-non-believingly repeat something over and over and over. I think emotions are tremendously powerful for us, and that's a lot of the time what gets in the way of us using some of these programs, you know. If we think, we can try to convince ourselves of things, but if deep down inside we just don't believe it's going to work for us, and that's the emotion behind it, then I think that really carries over and shows up in the results that we get, you know. So even if you can find some emotion centered around something else, but just use that, just take that anger or that sadness or that whatever, it's still a very powerful emotion. Just take that energy and then say, okay, how can I use this energy for the best good, and put that out there in whatever form you'd like to put it there.
Yeah, you know, going back to the comment that Sandy Kalinowski, I apologize if I've butchered your last name, was just saying, she says, you know, I found that self-help that I've tried to be boring and difficult, and I've gotten completely away from it. It was driving me crazy. I think that's a really great point, something that I actually kind of want to speak to on the boringness. Like, I don't like those long, like, drawn out, like I'm sitting in a college classroom with the most monotone professor ever on earth talking at me. Like, I don't like those either. But what I will say to that is, what I've noticed about myself is when things like that don't seem to be resonating with me, for me, I've found that really I wasn't in a place where I was open and ready to receive that information yet. And it seems things that are a little bit boring that I'm still open to receiving, there in some way I can still get enough out of it that it's worth my time. But I totally am with you with the whole drab, you know, really academia kind of self-help stuff. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Christina, and I think that it also has to do with, well, like what Catherine was saying, is those emotions that you attach to what it is that you ultimately want to achieve. If you can, if you can attach positive emotions to it and start kind of being excited about what you're wanting to achieve, it's because I think what happens a lot of time is that self-doubt gets in there. It starts to kind of pick away at the things that you're trying to work on, and it can cause you to, you know, feel negative towards whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And like Christina was saying, is that, yeah, you may not be quite open to it, but one thing that I would also suggest is to just keep looking at different things too, because I mean, not every program is going to resonate with you, and even if you do just the tiniest little bit, then that still will make a difference. It was like I mentioned in the pre-mastermind discussion that I had decided that I was going to start meditating every day, and my intention was I was going to do it for, you know, 15 to 30 minutes a day. Well, that did not end up working out very well. You know, it was a big time commitment, and so then I started feeling bad that I wasn't doing it, and then I was giving myself a hard time, and I, you know, talking down to myself, or you should do this, or you're not, you know, you're not doing what you said you wanted to do, and all these things, you know, they start getting in your head, and then you know, particularly on the weekends when everybody's home and we're all doing things, and there's not that quiet space that I wanted, and you know, and all those things, and so then I just realized that even taking just a couple of minutes a day and just sitting quietly and clearing this crap out of my mind that I don't want in there, even if I'm not focused on visualizing or I'm not focused on some specific meditation practice or whatever, it's just doing that little tiny thing of just clearing my mind made a big difference. And what ended up happening is that over time, I just gradually was desiring to do that more and more, and made more and more time for it throughout my week. And even on the weekends, even if I only have a couple of minutes, it's still something that I have a desire to do, because I made that a practice that I started to really enjoy versus something I felt like I was forcing myself to do. So I don't know. I'd say one of the biggest things is just, you know, find something that is somewhat interesting, and even if you're only doing it a couple of minutes a day, it can make a big difference over the long term. And keep trying different stuff too.
I have to say that's a good point. In like both of the sort of the masterminds that I'm working with, one of the big things that one of the first big things that we dealt with was being congruent in your word and your deed. And I was like, I don't know about this word and deed congruency thing. Let's talk a little bit more about it. But really, it kind of boils down to the fact that literally, because we often tell ourselves we're going to do something, but we don't do it, right? So our subconscious now is at a point where it doesn't even believe us when we say we're going to do it. It's like, yeah, right. And I know with me that has been one of the challenges that I've been working on overcoming, and I have not perfected it, because I'm like you. I'm like, I'm gonna do it, and then I end up not doing it, like, right? But one of the things that kind of helps with that is setting a clear, strong intention of being congruent with your word every day. You give to yourself, right? Which is another thing that I'm learning. Because it's easier to give to everybody else, give to everybody else. One of the first big lessons that I learned in Pay Me What I'm Worth is that I am so much better at giving than receiving, or I have been, right? and so I was so always so out of balance in giving and receiving. But what I'm realizing and what I've come to learn is literally what I thought I was giving, I really wasn't giving everything that I could be giving, because I always had an empty cup that I was serving from, right? So that knowledge has at least helped me in some way kind of put things in perspective and say, okay, 15 minutes a day I'm going to give to Christina, whether it's just to sit there, and I'm working on that meditation thing too, Samantha. Whatever it is, to sort of replenish myself so that I can continue to serve others. And that's kind of helped me get better with the word and deed thing.
You know, that word and deed thing you're talking
I
about.
wanted to jump out real quick. Sorry, Dan. I had a comment
Go ahead.
on the everyday giving to yourself. You know, that's another big, huge thing, because what I've noticed over the years is that I would feel guilty about doing things that were good for me, like spending 30 minutes a day reading, when I felt like, no, I should be doing this other work instead, or whatever it was. And when I first started doing the meditation practice, I mean, meditating, you're just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. And when you looking at a perspective of, you think you're supposed to be doing 10 million things a day and you're sitting there doing nothing, you feel guilty. Or at least that's my experience. That was something that I had. So that's a great point, Christina, about allowing and giving yourself that time just for you, just strictly for you, and as a gift to yourself to better improve yourself. Jump out there, Dan. Sorry about that. I just wanted to get that done.
I lost all sound with you, Samantha. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Yeah, a couple of different things, a couple of different thoughts was cooking in my mind. You know, Christine, what you was talking about. Bob Proctor talks about a word called praxis, and praxis is integrating what you believe with your actions. And a lot of times what we actually believe and the actual actions that we take are two different things. And there's a reason for it, but I'm going to read a paragraph here out of the book. It says, through some natural law of cause and effect, when we improve ourselves, the things that we would like to have in our lives follow naturally. Improve who you are, and by the same law, you will improve your life. The more successful you become inside, the more successes you will automatically create on the outside. By making changes on the inside, but making changes on the inside is seldom as easily accomplished as we would like it to be. When we decide to change, we are suddenly confronted with a wall of obstacles that we would rather not have bargained for. When we commit to change, we suddenly find ourselves confronted with some unexpected competition. And what Proctor talks about a lot is something called paradigms. And the paradigms are habits. It's a group of habits that was formed, and those habits were not even habits that programming was not even programming that you chose to put in there. Okay, you was programmed from the time that you were a child, and the programming that was placed within you is programming from your parents, from school teachers, from your peer group, your friends, and that you've accepted ideas, but were those ideas actually ideas that are true? And from your perspective, they are true, but do they need to be true? And so praxis is lining up your actions with the beliefs that you hold within your subconscious mind, and that's why it's so important to go through these self-help type of programs, is with the purpose of digging out. Just like, my wife raises flowers, and so she's got these different kinds of bulbs. I'm trying to think of gladiolas and that type of thing. Well, those things, they multiply, and there comes a point in time where you got to dig those roots up, the bulbs, and you got to separate them and replant them because you got too many. And I kind of look at the thoughts that were planted into my subconscious mind somewhere along that same line, that you've got to just get in there with a shovel sometime and just rip them things out, and you got to take them out, hold them in your hand, so to speak, and examine the beliefs that you have, the thoughts that you have, and ask yourself, is this thought serving me? And if it's not, I got to get it out, you know. And so that's the wall that we keep running up against. You know, we bang, you know, it's just like, wow, where did that come from? How come that thought's there? I don't want it. I don't agree with it, but bam, it's there. And it's that wall that we keep, it's like knocking your head against a brick wall. You know, I want to move on. I want to accomplish these things. Bam, there's that wall again. It keeps just popping up, you know, and that's those subconscious beliefs, and that's that integrating of that praxis, the integration of your beliefs with your actions and actually doing the things. And there's different kinds of meditation. I try not to get real scriptural here, but there's something there in the Old Testament, in the book of Joshua, in chapter 1, God is giving Joshua some instructions, and he says, do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. And he says, meditate therein day and night. Meditate therein. And so there's Eastern meditation, which you are sitting there, closing your eyes and trying to get nothing to go through your mind. But this is Christian, it's biblical meditation, and what that says is don't let that word depart from your mouth. It's choosing a thought, and it's speaking that thought. It's like mumbling the thought over and over and over again under your breath. It's like nobody else can hear it, but you're speaking that over and over and over again, and that goes back to that programming issue of programming these thoughts. It's meditating on a thought, speaking it over and over and over again out of your own mouth. And you don't have to speak it loud necessarily, because you've got two sets of ears. You've got outer ears and you've got inner ears. And you hear yourself primarily through bone conduction in your inner ear, which shoots directly to your spirit, okay, directly to your heart. And so that's why you can plug your outer ears and talk, and you can still hear yourself, and actually hear yourself louder in a sense with your outer ears plugged up. And so that's where, like, these books, that repetition of affirmations of orders over and over and over and over again, you're speaking it, so to speak, under your breath. You don't even have to say it out loud to other people, and you say that over and over and over again. That's what does the programming, and that's what changes our lives. So I'm done.
Well, then that was all real deep, man. That was deep. You had two words that really resonated with me, and one of them was integration. Literally, when you learn this stuff, you got to start integrating this stuff. We're not saying you have to be perfect at it every day, but what you can't do, which is the next thing that I've been learning in my work, is you can't allow that internal control committee. You can't get to analyzing and being a critic, being a judge, all that self-doubt kind of stuff, all that chatter. The goal of the internal control committee literally is to keep chaos going in your life, so that you can't let all this other good stuff come in and start to work, basically. Because the only way that the judge and the critic and the analyzer and the control, the only way the perfectionist has any room to work in your life is if they still have lead over that job, right? If they keep you in chaos, then they're doing great, all right? Just think of it like that, right? So really, you've got to start to integrate little by little and be consistent in not allowing those things, because perfection is not a state that is possible. So you're never going to be perfect. The important thing is that you don't beat yourself up, but rather recognize, understand that it's success, even when you get to a point where you've grown enough to, in the moment, be like, whoa, like, this is stinking thinking. Let me hit pause on that stinking thinking. That's success. That is growth. That should be celebrated. Because now you can go back to the new wiring, and kind of like there's a flip, a light switch on new wiring and light switch on old wiring. You can tap that switch on the old wiring, flip the switch on the new wiring and begin to implement and integrate those new things until your roots, because you've got how many years you've been living with these bad roots, right? And like Dan was saying, those bulbs get to multiplying. Well, until these new bulbs get to multiply, right, you've got to continue to uproot those old negative roots. And so until your new wiring gets in, just understand that it's going to be a process, sort of like an ebb and a flow. And rather than beat yourself up about it, go look in the mirror, give yourself a high five, and say, I recognize this now. I'm back on the right path. Let me flip the switch on my new wiring. I'm done with my rant.
Christina, oh, go ahead, Sam.
No, go ahead, Catherine. Go ahead.
Christina, I so agree with you on celebrating the small stuff. You really have to do that. I mean, if my life experiences with pain have taught me anything, it's how to distract myself from it. And so that has given me very strong powers to be able to distract from other things, like those thoughts that come in, you know. And it's also taught me to celebrate every small little thing. And so I do the same thing in my business, you know, every new thing that I learn how to do on the computer, or, you know. And I tell people, you know, even if you just get a post up on Facebook or whatever it is, just celebrate that. That is, you know, that's something that you would have to pay somebody else to do, you know. So it's skills that not everybody has, so it's worth celebrating. And just the fact that you had the wherewithal to do it, you know, that you're taking steps to move forward. And that's what it takes, is simple steps every day. And Christina, I also want to go back. I apologize for coming in and out. My computer keeps shutting down. I'm trying it without the camera now to see if it'll stay on. But you mentioned before about receiving. So many of us are amazing at giving. We give and give and give and give and give and give, and yet we don't receive. And I think that we also do that with some of these self-help programs. We learn and learn and learn and learn and learn, but we don't implement. Like, we know what to do, we just don't do it. And sometimes we give ourselves the excuse, well, I just don't know what to do. Yeah, I read that book and I read all those steps and I know I'm supposed to do this, but I don't know how to do it. So I just want to remind everybody that that is having those, how do I want to say that? Having that thought process of I don't know, that's a very resistant energy. It's very resistant. And so even if you don't know what to do, if you can just take even a moment to completely come into the present, you know, instead of worrying about what you need to do, what you think you should do, what happened yesterday, just come completely into the present moment. Find out that everything is actually usually pretty perfect in the moment, unless your house is on fire or something like that, you know. But so you're in the moment, and now you find that moment of peace, and you ask, you know, you admit, be honest. Like you said, Dan, come into integrity with yourself and your creator, and admit that, hey, I don't know what to do right now. You know, I need some help. And you will be amazed at, like, one time I was trying to put something on a website. I had no idea how to do this. I tried for hours to figure it out using my brain. Finally, I surrendered, and surrender's the key word there. Finally, I surrendered and said, hey, I don't know how to do this. I need help. And I don't know what happened, but like 30 minutes later, that stuff was up on the website. I'm serious, you guys. Like, all of a sudden, the major mastermind kicked in and started downloading stuff. My fingers were just like, and it was done. And I was like, oh, smokes. So, you know, don't, you know, some people say let go and let God. You know, however you want to say it or look at it, just remember that we have so many greater resources to pull on than just our little minds and what we think we know. So we're getting to the top of the hour, so I'll go ahead and say bye here. Thank you, everybody, for all the amazing comments and for hanging on with us through the technical issues and all of that. We'll see you next week. Have a great week.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up as well because I have a train coming. So, Dan, if you want to close out for us, and Christina, if you've got some final thoughts, and then I don't know, Dan, give me the thumbs up when we're when we're ready to end or whatever. Christina, then Dan, and then we'll close out. And I was going to take a moment and read everybody's comments there on the event page. Christina, if you wanted to do that, you could, and then Dan can wrap it up there at the end, and the train will be coming here in a second. Whoop, there it is. Okay.
Okay. So Heron Johnson was saying, when we improve ourselves, the things that we would like to have in our lives follow naturally. So true. Christopher Kemp was telling Dan that was a great example. Yeah, those Windows 10 gremlins are popping up big time today. Dan Sissick says perfection can't be attained, but excellence can be, and use that as part of your motivation and focus to get to where you want to be. And JD Kinneshet, girl, I got it, said, I like that biblical perspective. It is important to understand the power of speaking the same scriptural words that others have already utilized for spiritual substance. You build that mindset through the inner repetition of a verse or a concept. And then Heron Johnson also said, keep things simple and keep your focus. Totally agree. What I will say is my closing thoughts literally is also perfection. People can get a little bit addicted to the overwhelmed state or the perfection state, or they can get addicted to the I don't know what to do or the victim state. Okay, one of my mentors says overwhelm is just knowing that there's something you need to be doing and you're not putting action towards doing it, right? And I really think that that's basically what Catherine was saying, was putting some action towards doing it. When you are overwhelmed, or when you're lost, or you're not really sure of the next step, most often when you take a step, then that momentum starts to build and you find some answer on that, right? Don't get addicted to being the victim. Don't get addicted to that state of I'm overwhelmed, blah, blah. Because you've spent more time in that place, it seems more comfortable, but it's one of the things that's keeping you from moving forward. So I say take a step with faith and allow the moment. I think it was Catherine also saying the consciousness in the moment give you the next answer. Okay, Dan, go ahead and take it away. I'm going to shut up now.
Well, what I've been discovering in my life and is that you just integrate your self-improvement as you go through your day. And an example of that is to listen to audios. You can listen to an audio, or you can, if you got a laptop available, you can watch a YouTube video or a training with your system, whatever your system is. You can watch those while you're cooking supper, or while you're fixing your breakfast, or while you're eating. You can take audio recordings, and if you have a smartphone or an iPhone, like I put a chip. I have a smartphone, but I put a chip into it, and I can't remember, it's 32 gigabytes or whatever it is. Anyway, you can download recordings and put those onto your phone, and then as you're driving to and from work, if you don't have a CD player or a cassette player or whatever, then you can listen to recordings on your telephone. And we all have, there's a room that we all spend a little bit of time in every single day, the bathroom, okay? And I've got probably 10 books sitting in my bathroom, and I'm never more than a few feet away from a book. I mean, I've got books everywhere throughout the house, and at any given time I'm reading 5, 6, 7 books, or more. and so you just integrate this stuff into your life as you're going about your life. If you're exercising on an exercise machine, there again, you can listen to an audio, or you can watch a YouTube recording or whatever on your laptop. And then going back to what I was talking about earlier, the meditating on the word, thinking about different words. A biblical example is, if you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes, and that's one that I use all the time. If you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes. And I don't have to say it out loud. I got it stored. It's in my hard drive. I downloaded it, okay, into me, and so that's the reason why we memorize certain things. And for me, a lot of that, quite truthfully, is biblical passages. I go into the scriptures and I search those out, and I pull out passages and I memorize them. So that's a download into my own heart, into my own spirit, into my subconscious mind. And then you can easily pull them up, and you don't have to even be speaking them out loud because you have them stored on your internal hard drive. Okay, and then you speak those over and over again, and that's that biblical meditation, not Eastern meditation. It's biblical meditation of speaking to yourself over and over and over and over again, programming your own thinking. And if that passage says that if you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes, then if I can believe this, then I should be able to do it, right? Okay. And so when you have that overwhelm, and I'm a perfectionist. I mean, I'm hardwired to be a perfectionist. My painting career, when I walked off of a job, I wanted that job perfect. If you wanted somebody to paint your house, you wanted somebody like me, because I am such a perfectionist that I just couldn't live with myself if it wasn't perfect. And that's been a big challenge and stumbling block for me coming over into the online market, if you want to call it that. But I keep striving for perfection. I got to come to that point where I just realize, hey, this is good enough, and I just got to stick it out there, So, but the whole point is just integrate self-improvement into your daily lifestyle. And it just has to be something that you do it while you're eating breakfast, you do it while you're cooking supper, you do it while you're driving to work if you still have a job, you do it when you're laying in bed, and before you go to sleep, and when you wake up in the morning. And it's just kind of a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week thing that you just keep working on and keep putting those thoughts in and good stuff in, and then out of the treasure of your heart, that stuff's going to come flowing out. So anyway, I appreciate everybody showing up today, and yeah, we've all had technical challenges in some form today, and I didn't think I was going to be able to get on today, but anyway, finally made it, and I'm really glad I did. This was a great hangout. I appreciate everybody, and please come back next week and join us next week, and hopefully everybody was blessed today. So have a great day.